Do you like beating women and taking drugs? If so, you dirty human being, Cultivation is just the filth you need. Hailing from the land of child slaves and cheap exports, this toxic genre of fantasy martial arts is the latest reason the civil man has to hate communism. Born from a distaste of authority and drawn by the corrupt souls who brought us
John Cena
and
The Walk.
through titles such as Dragon Ball, Naruto, and
Top-tier Providence secretly cultivate for 1,000 years.
this genre has attained increasing notoriety in recent years, and just like how Kendrick feels about Drake breathing, no one's happy about it. Ken-chan here, lowering my social credit and convincing you China needs to turn its freedom of expression even further down. Today, we talk about Cultivation. First off, you might be wondering, Skeleton PNG man, what is Cultivation? Well, other than garbage, it's a Taoist concept that describes extending one's lifespan through practicing martial and mystical arts with the goal of cultivating Qi or Ki, the spiritual life force, inaccurately referred to as chakra in Naruto. On paper, that sounds great, and that's just how they trick you. If simple descriptions were enough to judge a genre, the magical world jumping of Japanese isekai and fate altering of Korean regressor stories would be peak literature, but we all know that's repetitive garbage, and I promise on my heart that Cultivation is worse than you might imagine. Vengeance, egos, and injustice are the pillars of the Cultivation story, and pardon my garbage editing as a guy with 3K subs that can't afford to pay someone else to do it, but let me quickly show you how the typical Cultivation plot unfolds. Ah, what a lovely day to pursue the martial Tao. I have finally gathered enough spiritual Qi in my Dantian to attempt a breakthrough. Let me enter seclusion to advance to the 5th layer of the body tempering realm. Meanwhile, in the Zhao family. Senior brothers, that Zhao Lieh has secluded himself in his cave abode.
What? The family rules dictate that body tempering realm practitioners may only enter seclusion if they are on the verge of breakthrough.
It has only been 2 weeks since he last ascended a minor realm. His cultivation speed is too terrifying.
Senior brother, if this continues, he may be able to oppose you in the battle for the junior patriarch position.
An insect trying to stop a moving car. My father is the Grand Elder, while that peasant is of lowly birth, child to a servant and a father long dead. Dealing with him will be as waving my sleeve. The next day. My breakthrough was successful and I've consolidated my foundation. It is time to report this to Uncle. Heavens! Who is that jade-like beauty? I must not allow distractions until my cultivation has risen to a higher level. Jade-like beauty is impressed that he is able to resist her beauty, becomes interested in him, and asks him to guide her to the main hall. Here we are. May I ask what business you—
Zhao Lieh, toad lusting after swan flesh!
Koto to me 3 times and the matter shall be forgotten, otherwise don't blame me for being merciless. Senior brother, what is the meaning of this? You slap my face.
Ha! He! Ho!
Main character is ruthlessly beaten and a family elder appears to save his life. Who dares not put my Zhao family's rules in their eyes? Third elder, it was this Zhao Lieh. He dared have ideas about my fiancée and I discovered him trying to come upon her. This was done to defend her honor. Senior brother, do not make black into white. Young miss, please seek justice on my behalf. The jade-like beauty realizes the lowly position of main character and decides it is not worth offending the greater powers to support him. You tried to implicate the 4th daughter of the Ye family in your lies. Do you take this Zhao family elder to be fought? I henceforth banish you. The elder strikes the lower abdomen of main character, destroying his dantian and crippling his cultivation before casting him off the family grounds. While looking for shelter to heal his wounds, main character encounters the most heaven-defying fortuitous encounter, the Vermilion Dog Jade, which allows him to regain his cultivation, become stronger than he was before, return to the sect to get revenge, discover the death of his father was an internal conspiracy plotted by the current patriarch, and swear that he and the Zhao family can no longer exist under the same sky. At the critical moment, before defeating the elders of his clan, the young miss of the Ye family calls him a dragon among men and tries to curry favor, remarking that she had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. But main character has been wizened to her antics and ruthlessly slaps her away. Within the time it takes an incense stick to burn, the masters of the family are all defeated. Whatever rare opportunity you have received, making you to think you are crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood, has made you court death. You fail to recognize the immensity of heaven and earth. With no tiger in the mountain, even a monkey can call himself king, but this Zhao family is only a subsidiary of the soaring 6 Sapphire sect, and after they discover that you are the reason they no longer receive our tribute, they are venerables of the nascent soul realm shall... Main character strikes the patriarch, leaving him to die a dog's death, and the 8,000 chapter cycle of him defeating the next sect, which offends the family above them, and then training to defeat that family, only to incur the wrath of their powerful ancestor, begins, with a harem of jade-skinned beauties and fortuitous encounters being acquired along the way. Now, I've given you a little taste of beating women, but I promised drugs, and just because I love y'all, I'ma throw in the Chinese mainlander's wet dream, defying oh, I can't even say it, it's so naughty. While big homie Winnie the Pooh don't keep things locked down like Daddy Kim and North K, to understand cultivation, you need to think about the highly restricted lives of most of the people writing it. Fictional stories are meant to be a way for readers to escape the lives they're suffering through. They're meant to paint a world completely different from everyday existence. Japanese salarymen are slaves who barely have the freedom to breathe, so the escapist fantasy isekai, which imagines lives without responsibility, appeals to them. Korea has an awful bullying and youth violence epidemic due to laws that don't adequately punish minors, so inspirational stories about bullying victims rising to thwart their oppressors do hella numbers. And China's communist regime has stripped its people of enough civil liberties that the common man's ideal story follows a guy that says, I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want and you aren't stopping me no matter what you try. He who was insignificant becomes a domineering figure capable of standing against injustice, imposing his idea of order into a chaotic world, and enjoying the companionship of the fair maidens impressed by his valor. I'm a fair person, and I understand how that appeals to so many people. It's a warm concept, but as a fair person, I have to be honest and tell you the execution of these ideas is as good as 3-day-old lasagna in summer. It's not. For anyone who isn't intimately familiar with cultivation and has been shocked that I keep talking about China after using Dragon Ball and Naruto to draw you in here, it's finally time that I use them to explain the core cultivation concepts. The practice of cultivation revolves around spiritual energy, qi, circulation through energy centers, meridians or gates in the body. Through martial arts, which range from taijutsu to early Dragon Ball's hand-to-hand combat, or through mystical arts such as ninjutsu, genjutsu, or the Kamehameha wave and its alternatives, cultivators channel their inner energy into forms that allow them to transcend regular human ability. Since the number of ways a cultivator can use internal energy is limited and the amount a person possesses is even more so, there are auxiliary practices and tools that become common in cultivation stories to supplement the strength of groups and individuals. Mystical herbs that may increase or restore the inner energy and vitality of a cultivator are almost always guaranteed. Magical elixirs or pills that enhance the strength of a fighter to turn the tides of battle. Talismans allow you to create mystical effects you aren't directly capable of by borrowing another's expertise. Sealing techniques aid heroes in subduing foes too great to directly defeat. Spiritual beasts may expand a cultivator's available well of energy and provide for them the enhanced skills and physical abilities. And magical artifacts unleash greater power than cultivators could ever hope to on their own. Since Dragon Ball and Naruto were inspired by Journey to the West and ancient Eastern martial arts respectively, they emulate most of the core attributes the typical cultivation story of the same inspiration would have. Fortunately though, they filtered out some of the stink water that brought us here today. Just like coins, monkeys have a head and a tail, and just like monkeys, cultivation has a side that's smeared in doo-doo and a side that isn't. Subscribe for more philosophical analysis. The cultivation genre is broadly divided into two subgenres, the usually decent wuxia genre following martial arts chivalry, and the real culprit I've been dogging on, the immortal hero Xianxia genre. If my ancestors knew I'd use my civil rights to read this garbage and keep suffering anyway, they'd have never left slavery, but because the rent is due like any good black person, I've decided to abandon my self-worth for bread. Reading a Xianxia manhwa feels like the equivalent of selling my body to sustain my heroin addiction. It fills me with shame, fills me with fluids, and the only reason I've been able to read enough to make a video like this is because I am reminded occasionally that some poor souls have been corrupted worse than me and need to be brought back to the light. From the little skit I did earlier, you should have been able to realize that just because a manhwa has been translated from Chinese, that doesn't mean it's in English. Cultivation is written in the demon tongue known as idiom. It has the magical property of sounding like it uses normal words, without having to make sense when those words are put together. When spoken by a skillful linguist, demon tongue has the ability to induce aneurysm and brain damage. It takes years and hundreds of translators' notes to get to this level, but as you can tell from the way my video has damaged your intellect and caused you pain, I am already a master. That brings me back to Lost Souls. The first sign that cultivation was corrupting the youth was when this video was picked through a community post poll. The second, much more terrifying sign was this comment. To be able to use a phrase in demon tongue that even I didn't understand told me everything I needed to know about the suffering my brother in Tao has experienced, and I hope that after hearing the things I'm about to say, none of you ever walk down the dark path. In the tame and mild wuxia genre, stories are usually set in ancient China or a similar Earth-like setting. Most of the stories of this type you see today are Korean manhwa set in the Murim, the martial society of ancient China. They typically follow a budding martial arts practitioner seeking to grow their skills and renown through diligent training and experiencing the world. Just like I'll get to with the immortal heroes of Xianxia, the idea of martial arts used here is exaggerated. The experts and masters can pierce jade and shatter rock, leap chasms and level armies. Whether we talk about the swordsmen of Manhwa, the poisoners of the Sichuan Tang clan, or the dark arts masters of the demonic cult, the characters are all far from normal. They are, however, mortal. They're human, always tread the border between life and death, and honestly make for some stories that aren't half bad. 300 comments on this video saying you're interested, and I'll make a dedicated video on Murim Manhwa. For now, with all the distractions out the way, I can focus all my hate on Xianxia like it deserves. This is the higher fantasy subgenre of Cultivation. No looming threat of the Chinese emperor sending a million-man army after you, no division between the martial society and mortal peasants. Xianxia stories give us full-blown fantasy worlds with fictional geographies and governments. Where there are people, there are cultivators, and the goal of man is to increase your cultivation and strive towards immortality through nepotism, discrimination, and Mexican black tar heroin. To understand the characters, which, spoiler alert, are all bad, you need to understand how the world works. Every Xianxia uses the same power system, which you would think would make them easier to understand, but it's actually the opposite. Because they're all the same, Xianxia writers have this cult-like expectation that you're only reading their story because you're ruined for life and already know what cultivation is, so no one ever explains what the hell is going on. And every author implements their own small differences, so no matter how much you think you figured it out, you haven't. The strength and lifespan of a cultivator is dependent on their cultivation, which is measured in what we call realms. The higher your realm is, the stronger you are and the longer you will live. For the sake of the video, let's say the path of a cultivator progresses like this. You start as a mortal with an 80-year lifespan. When you first gather chi in your energy center and learn to circulate it, you become a body tempering realm expert. It's like going Super Saiyan, but you can't turn it off. You're permanently stronger, and now you can live 250 years easily and in good health. As a body tempering realm expert, you will need to dedicate years to training your martial arts and collecting spiritual energy to further increase your strength. If you want to extend your lifespan and become able to live 600 years, you will then have to ascend to the Chi refinement realm, where you will no longer need to eat or sleep, but will be able to subsist off of natural energy. The ascension is easier said than done though, because each major realm consists of several minor realms. When you become a body tempering realm practitioner, you will start at the first layer and have to cultivate to the 9th layer before you can think of breaking through to the Chi refinement realm. From refining your muscles to your bones and tendons and washing your marrow, then improving your 5 senses, each time you break through a minor realm, you will see a small increase in your strength and fighting ability. Cultivation is ultimately pretty linear and repeats the same pattern endlessly of cultivating to a new realm, spending years to break through the layers, then trying to get to the next realm. The main issue characters face is that just because the principle is straightforward, that doesn't make it easy. Some guys are talentless and will spend so long trying to cultivate to a higher realm that their lifespan will run out before they're successful, and they'll die a pitiful death without major accomplishments. This is where the toxic tropes and cliches kick in, and where we see women throw themselves at whoever will give them the oldest blade of grass. In a world where everyone can hope to become immortal if they're willing to hemorrhoid stain their panties from sitting still in a cave too long, why do people even fight? 'Cause your cave sucks and you want a better one. Obviously, if the power system revolves around absorbing energy to grow stronger, anything that gets you extra energy is valuable. And if something's an impossibly rare, life-altering treasure like affordable housing, people will be willing to kill for it. This is where nepotism comes in. The family you're born into pretty much decides how far you're going to go, because if you're from the main branch of the Hyuga clan, the elders will hunt ferocious beasts like the rats from the Bronx, so you can refine their blood and monster cores to increase your chi. If you're from a family like the Uzumaki clan, a rare spiritual beast will be passed down to you, and if you're an Uchiha, the domineering strength of your family will allow you to live like a king and have access to enough cultivation resources that you consume pills and elixirs as if you're eating rice, so you'll naturally surpass your peers. That 1% living is what, in turn, gives birth to the insufferable character archetypes that get beaten twice to death in every Xianxia story. Every villain is either the arrogant young master of a reputable family that goes around bullying everyone until the main character humbles them, or that character's older relative who comes after the main character for revenge because he didn't roll over on the floor and lick their shoes. Xianxia characters are so copied and pasted that they're only divided into hero or villain and male or female. In a cultivation story, if Jeff Bezos isn't your uncle, the only way to really become powerful is by winning the lottery. This usually takes the form of what we call a fortuitous encounter or opportunity. It's something like finding the best weapon ever created that just happened to be lost by an ancient warrior in the woods, or stumbling into a hidden part of a cave where an immortal left all of his martial arts techniques, or discovering a rare herb that's been gathering spiritual energy from the surroundings for 10,000 years up in the mountains. What differentiates protagonists and antagonists is that the main character will find every single fortuitous encounter by absolute accident throughout the course of the story, while the poor villains aren't being granted power-ups by the plot. It always makes me angry how the story always acts like MC-kun is a tragic underdog fighting against impossible odds when the deck is always so impossibly stacked in his favor that there's never any conceivable chance he loses. He's always the youngest in history to reach whatever realm he's at because he can't turn his head without finding a once-in-a-million years power-up. Also, did you notice how I've always referred to the main character as a male even though I'm talking about an entire genre? Well, my dear viewer, that's because no one has told cultivation authors that women are real people. I'm a feminist like King Kazuma, equal rights, equal lefts, and all that. So what probably repulses me the most about cultivation has to be the fact that every female character either exists to be dog-slapped by the MC after failed seduction, or to serve as a damsel in distress for the sake of MC's heroics. As humans, we've come too far for this. I personally can't understand women. I'm probably as chronically single as the idiots writing this trash, and I have no idea if I'll ever be able to find a wife. Let me tell you, it hasn't looked good so far. But it doesn't take a PhD in sociology to realize they're human beings like me. They're smarter than I am, persevere through more than I've had to, work harder than I do, are more caring, and will outlive me on average, so they're probably better cultivators too. It baffles me how anyone who's lived through the modern era can decide their worth is in their physical appearance and ability to use it, but that seems to be the stance Xianxia authors all agreed to take, and it's why the only thing I'll ever have to say about this genre is that it's toxic. The male-female dynamic boils down to, if you're a strong man, you're arrogant, put no one in your eyes, and flex your muscles whenever you want something. If you're a weak man, you live a cowardly life, bowing to the strong. If you're a strong woman, you're not. Your worth is decided by your beauty or background, and if you try to accomplish anything for yourself, you will immediately begin your damsel in distress arc, because women are apparently only good for maintaining a household, and this idea is reinforced because after MC-kun saves the female character from her damsel in distress arc, she will fall in love with him. Something unfortunate because love doesn't actually exist. No romance, only seduction. A female character will unfailingly walk down one of the following three routes. Either A. Attempt to seduce any man for personal gain. B. Exclusively try to seduce the main character. Or C. Allow the main character to seduce you because it turns out women only want to cook rice. As for men, the aforementioned young master characters will continuously offer rare grasses and dual cultivation to entice whichever ladies catch their eyes, only to rebuke the women who reject their advances, and move their furniture to disrupt the feng shui of their bedchambers so they die of heart attacks in their sleep from energy imbalance. This is a hard thing to achieve, but the character writing is so stupid that I genuinely find going through yo mama jokes more entertaining. At least, yo mama's so stupid, she sold her car to pay for gas, shows that whoever wrote it is smart enough to realize gas becomes useless in the absence of a vehicle, and cultivation writers make it real hard for me to assume they have the same deductive reasoning. All they ever do is objectify women and glorify drugs, which I guess I should get to. Since resources that improve your cultivation are such a big deal, there exist these individuals known as alchemists. They go full Breaking Bad with it, priding themselves on their abilities to refine the best pills and elixirs from medicinal herbs. These pills vary from healing you up and increasing your chi to giving you power buffs or even allowing you to easily break through major and minor realms. The magical herbs cultivators grow or find usually have side effects that range from madness to chi deviation to death by explosion, which does not stop as many people as you might think from eating them anyway. So refining them into pills improves their effectiveness and makes them safer to consume. The path of alchemy is typically hard to follow, so alchemists tend to be wealthy, and they keep their techniques and recipes secret to maximize profit, as any pharmacologist would. Because of this, certain pills end up being so rare and heaven-defying that their worth can't be measured with money. These show up at each of the 42 auctions the main character attends to show off the wealth he got through illegitimate means, and are often central to conflict, because nothing's more important than the opportunity to advance your cultivation. It's also typically for the prospect of attaining pills like this that women try to get close to powerful figures in the first place. I know I'm about to cry blood editing this for 17 views, so I'll cut my losses here. I'm a fair guy, so I need to insult women before I wrap this up. I've heavily offended every group I've talked about, and I can be accused of favoritism, so I've got to do it, and I will just after my farewells. My last year on YouTube honestly has not been promising, and it's been a series of one disappointment after the next, so I really need your help if I'm ever going to have a chance of becoming a good YouTuber. Please go down into the comment section and tell me one thing you liked or disliked about this video. It's really hard to figure out how to improve if I don't know what I'm doing wrong, so I'd really appreciate it. Also, major thanks to the patrons Bolivar Sanchez and Lucas HF. I haven't given them much to be proud of, but things like the skit in this video and a bunch of my thumbnails wouldn't be possible without them. You're the goats. Finally, ladies, y'all suck at basketball. You're sorry, it hurts to watch, except Caitlin Clark, she a hooper. Peace out guys, until next time, this has been Ken-chan getting cancelled.